Dragon Age Inquisition is better than 2, but still nowhere near Origins. Yeah, that's what I hear, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to play one that's like just okay. Like, honestly, I think I would prefer to just replay Origins just on PC, because I played it on PS3, so I still loved it. I still thought it was really good. And I think that might be why I'm kind of comfortable walking around like this in this game, because it feels more like the console Dragon Age Origins. So just way better combat. Like, the Dragon Age Origins combat isn't bad, but this is a lot better. It just is. I could justify that in depth, but I don't really have the energy to do it right now, to be honest. I can though. I think if anyone really wants me to make a solid argument with it, let me know, and I will do my best. But I think it will also involve me having to replay a bit of Dragon Age Origins. But this, to me, the minute I played it, even in the early access, that seemed like, oh man, this is that sort of D&D combat, but really, really good, like a lot better. And that's not really a slight to BioWare, because I think BioWare did a great job on Dragon Age, especially with the story and role-playing elements. The Origins being a particularly cool thing, because you could start the game as any character class, and the whole first act of the game is sort of totally different, depending on like which part of the world you're starting in, what your background's like, and I thought that was really cool. And then it funnels more into a kind of a similar experience for everyone towards the end, and you're dealing with the same stuff. And I think that's an interesting way to do it, because it means you can fiddle around with a bunch of different character classes and races, and then have a different experience and be like, okay, that was cool, I'll try another one now. And you don't have to like go long into the game before it really starts mattering what you pick in your origin. It's like, no, the origin, you pick the origin, and you're going on the same adventure, but your origin is going to be a big part of the game. Like, it's like you will spend a good amount of time getting to know your character and where they come from before you start the meat of the game, where everything starts to become a bit more similar and you start interacting with some of the same characters. You just meet them in different orders depending on where you started, you know. Like, it was good. Dragon Age Origins, good stuff, BioWare. That was great. It was pretty much the follow-up to Knights of the Old Republic as well, which is why I keep bringing that up in the context of this game. People are getting pissed at me in the comments of the videos about that. I swear people don't read the title of the video. You're like, what is the point of this? Oh, didn't you play Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous? I'm like, dude, read the title of the video and then like watch it. My whole deal was saying like, no, I haven't played a ton of these games, and I think this one's really good. He's like, yeah, call yourself a casual gamer. I'm like, well, I play a lot of games, man. I don't think anyone could call me a casual gamer, really. I think that's a silly thing to throw at me. I just think it is. I play a lot of indie games too, I believe. So, you know, Chained Echoes. There's a video on my channel, like 3 videos down from that one, that's on Chained Echoes. That's an indie game made by one guy. It's a JRPG, it's an RPG still, you know? I understand the person making that argument. I guess I would just say that the video was about not trying to act like you've played all those games when you haven't. Because I'm like, oh yeah, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, that's absolutely the best. And Kingmaker, it's even better than Kingmaker. It's like, what? I've heard people say those things, but I don't know if they're true. So I don't want to say them, you know? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, I might play one of the Pathfinder games after this at some point. Or even just boot one up in my spare time and fiddle around with it while I'm not playing this game, not streaming. And hey, maybe I'll end up loving it, but it's like, I'm not gonna act like I'm not going to act like I know it's the best and that I should be speaking of it as if it is, if I don't really. Because I don't really know about it, man. And my whole point was, I think too many YouTubers and content creators overstate their experience. It's like, oh yeah, Dragon Age, totally play Dragon. Like, I just told you a fair amount of things about Dragon Age that even though it's been a decade since I played it, at least, probably longer, because when that game came out, 2010? 2009 even. So yeah, it's been like over 12 years. I only played it once too. It's not, and I didn't even fiddle around with too many of the life paths. I think I might have booted up like 2 or 3 and just played like the first 20 minutes of them. I didn't really experiment with it too much. I was kind of invested in my character, and that was enough for me. I think I just explained it in a way that it's pretty clear that I actually played it and that I'm not just saying that, you know. Whereas I think a lot of people will start speaking as if they have a lot of experience with a video game or a genre of video games, or, you know, or a way of playing a certain video game. Like, if I start talking about speed runs, I'll tell you right now, I'm bullshit. And the reason you won't hear me talking about speed runs is because I don't really do speed run stuff ever. I don't even, like, even games I love, I kind of hate it when speed running is the challenge. Resident Evil is terrible for that, because like in the Resident Evil games, you get all the best stuff you get is from getting through the game super quickly, and that's not really the way I like to play those games. It's not ideal for me as like a challenge in the game, but you know, more power to the people who like speedrunning. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not really into it. Just like CRPGs, I wasn't really into them. I think I might be growing a bit of a taste for them, because this one is very, very good and very, very approachable too. And you know, it looks really nice. It's an easy on-ramp into this genre, because it has a lot of the comforts of a modern AAA game, which you would expect, even though it is a modern indie game. It is an indie game, everybody. Baldur's Gate 3 is developed and published by Larian Studios. They do not have a publisher. So that is also worth noting. So if you say, hey, you don't have any experience with indie games, it's like, man, the video you're commenting on is about one. But I mean, yeah, like I think that the positive is that
to see but strange writing
a game like this can be an on-ramp into this entire genre or style of game for people that is approachable and that lets them figure out if they want to, say, play one that's a little bit more not low budget, because that sounds wrong, but I think that one of the ones that I believe a lot of people will go to from this that they might enjoy would be the Pillars of Eternity games. And that is if Microsoft does what I think should be the very smart thing, considering the success of this game, is starting promoting the living hell out of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 on all platforms, because it is on a bunch of different platforms, and it takes place in the same universe that Avowed takes place in. So I think that that would be a good way to, hey, you like CRPGs now? Well, there's 2 CRPGs that like have the cast of, I think it's Critical Role people are in Pillars of Eternity, and it's like, okay, well, there's another more easily approachable, comfortable thing to try. Try that one, and if they like that, maybe they'll play Avowed. And with Starfield coming out and Avowed being like kind of a Skyrim type game, all of that stuff is pretty reasonable to be like, yeah, hey, we might be able to actually start playing this type of game. And I think that is great for the genre, because though at least a handful of those people, or even other people that just go from not Dragon Age Origins, from Baldur's Gate 3 right to the Pathfinder games. You know, so that's more people playing those games. So I don't, when people start saying like, oh God, casuals now playing this game and acting as if they know what's up, I'm like, no, I am a casual in this genre, I guess you could say. I don't really play a whole lot of them, but I'm really enjoying this game. So I was talking about like, yeah, I think it'll make it so that people will play more CRPGs in general and branch out from this one to ones that are maybe a little less comfortable. Game Pass has a bunch of them, like Wasteland 3's on Game Pass. That's got voice acting and stuff. Whereas I think if you start telling people that they only can talk about Baldur's Gate 3 if they played the original Baldur's Gate, or they played, I don't know, like older CRPGs that were prior to even those ones, like just basic text role-playing games in DOS, you know? Like it's, yeah, you can go as far back as you want, but ultimately everyone needs an entry point. And I think this game, Baldur's Gate 3, is a fantastic entry point for CRPGs. And I think when the console version comes out, we will see a lot more people speaking about both in-depth role-playing games that are, you know, complete single-player or multiplayer, but multiplayer in a focused way where it's just, hey, join up with your friends and do whatever you want. Like, it's not like, hey, everybody get the battle pass and then unlock all, have your legendary gear that you get this week, and then remember all the enemies are leveling up next month, so you gotta sign up for next season as well. It's like, no, none of that. It's just, hey, game, well written, lots of branching paths, lots of different things you can do, lots of different types of gameplay. The combat is really, really good. Complex chess, which is, I assume, pretty easy on the easiest difficulty, because my wife's having no problem just flying through this game, which is blowing my mind, because I'm just like, oh my God, the combat is so much harder, and I'm just on the balance difficulty. I'm not even on Tactician. So I wonder, should I try Tactician on the next playthrough? Maybe, just maybe. Not definitely, though, because I don't know if I'll enjoy it. I do very much enjoy this game, though. And I think it's very likely I will start playing more CRPGs in the future, because I just played one that was really good and might maybe be like, I like this. Maybe I should look at where this game came from, what its roots are, what its inspirations are, what the previous games in the series are like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. You know, it's never too late to just get people into games and have them start going back and play it. So I think it's really counterproductive to ever say to a person, "Oh God, yeah, say you're casual," without saying you're casual. You don't even know about these games. It's like, no, I know about them. I just haven't played them. And like, I'm aware of every single game that the guy brought up. And it's like, no, I'm not going to talk about them as if I played them if I haven't played them. And neither should you. For anything. Even if it's something I've told you about, if you say, "Oh, I hear that game's trash because I told you it's trash," and by the way, Callisto Protocol is trash, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to agree with me. So my perspective isn't necessarily definitive. And I would argue that it is, my perspective, I would say, is a mix of objective observations as well as my own personal taste. But what I try to do, I suppose, is be very clear about what my perspective is and how informed it is, which I think a lot of people leave that part out. Because, hey, if you're a layman, that doesn't necessarily mean your opinion is useless, man. Because a lot of people want to hear from, like, okay, but what about someone who doesn't know anything about this type of game? Can I play this? And I'd be like, well, I know a little bit about this genre, but yeah, I think so. I think it's approachable enough that you could learn it and play it if you've never played a CRPG before. X-Ray Girl is proof right there. Guaranteed, she's not played a whole lot of CRPGs in her time. She, though, to be fair, she does play a lot of Final Fantasy games, so there is that. She does play JRPGs, but not CRPGs. Don't run to the comments and like reply to that guy or anything. I don't want to like, again, no brigading. We do not support brigading here at all. But I guess it jumped me off on a line of thought where I'm like, man, like why do people react that way? I don't get it. Because it's just like, I understand it because there's an element of gatekeeping anytime a niche genre of video game starts becoming more popular, but I don't understand discouraging people from getting an interest in an approachable game in a genre you like. Yeah, like I love that Doom 2016 did as well as it did. You know why? Because that got a lot of people being like, hey, maybe these more mindless first-person shooters that aren't tactical like Call of Duty are better in a lot of ways. Like they're actually more fun when it's just, hey, there's a bunch of different enemies. They're all monsters. They have a bunch of different powers. They're throwing things at you. They're raising each other from the dead. And you're an unstoppable killing machine. Go. That's kind of it. It's like run from one end of the level to the other. There's going to be some doors that are locked and some keys. You're going to run through a maze and you're going to kill a lot of monsters, tons of them. And it's going to be tons of fun. And that wasn't really in fashion for a pretty long time. But I think Doom 2016 was a great example of an approachable boomer shooter type game where it's just like, hey, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, man. This genre's been around for a while. And maybe the older version of it had something to it. And if it's not better, maybe it's different and as good in its own way, which I would argue I prefer a boomer shooter to a tactical shooter personally. And I think calling Call of Duty a tactical shooter might be going a bit far. But, you know, the kind where you have sniper rifles that can kill people in one hit, and it's mostly multiplayer focused, and it's stop and pop kind of stuff, hide for cover and then pop out and kill. Whereas Doom is just never stop running. You are running and shooting and killing things and smashing their heads and ripping their eyes out and tearing their heads off and never stop. Because if you stop moving, you're a target, and that you can't be a target. Whereas Call of Duty is kind of the opposite. It's, well, move when you can't shoot, but don't shoot while you're moving because that'll affect your accuracy. It's like, yeah, that is more real, sure, but real isn't necessarily the most fun thing, man. Been on a lot of military exercises. Some of them were fun. A lot of them were not fun. Or, I mean, okay. All of them probably had moments where they were fun and not fun, but some of them had a lot of time where it was not fun. Sorry you had to hear that, Rocky. Yeah, I love you too, buddy.